All right, good afternoon, everyone. Just going to give a few more seconds for people to file in before we kick things off. All right. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today's Wednesday Wise webinar. My name is Sydney Konahia with the International Franchise Association, and we have a great 60 minutes lined up for you all today. Before we get started, I just wanted to touch on two things. Today's webinar will be recorded, and a link to the recording along with a copy of the slide deck will be emailed out to all registrants after the webinar. And if you have any questions for today's speakers, please add them to the chat or questions box, and they will address them towards the end of the session or if it makes sense during the time. Today's topic is consolidating franchise location data, a blueprint to truths, benefits, myths, and missteps, and is brought to us by Qvinci software. I'm going to introduce one of our speakers right now, Brad Adams, President, CEO, and Chairman of Qvinci software, and he will make the intros for our other two speakers. Thank you so much, Brad, Charles, and Caleb for joining us today, and thank you again to Qvinci software for sponsoring today's Wednesday Wise webinar. I will now turn things over to you guys to get us started.
Thank you, Sydney. I appreciate that, and welcome everyone to this jam-packed webinar session today, sponsored by IFA and Stellar Service Brands and Qvinci. And we're going to talk about the importance of franchise location data. Okay, and that's all. This session is going to be about the data. So let's get into it and go to the next section here. Let me see if I can get this thing working. Welcome everybody. Okay, and to give us a little bit of a background, everyone talks about, or everyone claims they consolidate franchise location data, but few people realize that most solutions rely on some form of a manual process, okay, which create hidden costs, endless headaches. There's only one patented technology that fully automates this process called Qvinci, and we have the inventor on the webinar today. I'll introduce in a minute. And we want to thank Stellar Service Brands, Soft Rock, Restoration, Water, Fire, Mold, and Blue Frog, Plumbing and Drain, and all the other brands of Stellar Service Brands now and in the future. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you our panelists. Caleb Ward, who is the SVP of Finance of Stellar Service Brands. And Caleb, would you like to say a few words of introduction?
Yeah, thank you, Brad and Charles, for including me today with this conversation. For everyone on the call, I've been with Stellar for about 3 years. Prior to that, I've spent my career in restaurant franchising, multi-unit operation in restaurants and other businesses that run multi-unit business models. Stellar, as Brad mentioned, is the parent company to Restoration One, Blue Frog, and Soft Rock, but we also perform the accounting and finance functions for Zoom Drain and Patchmaster, which are some organizations out there, all in the home services space. And we're all customers of Qvinci, using it in each of our business units. We're really passionate about this technology because it helps us scale and create reporting and support our franchisees by making business decisions at the franchisor level that are really impactful, where it counts their pocketbooks. So,
yeah, thank you, Caleb, and appreciate that. And Charles Nagel is the founder, inventor, and chief innovation officer of Qvinci. And Charles, why don't you introduce yourself and say a few words?
Sure. It's good to be here. Company's been around since 2007. I was a turnaround consultant, and it was born out of going into these smaller businesses, small, medium-sized businesses, seeing the same problems over and over again. And if they were multi-unit operators, what they had, the need was, look, I got to bring my ecosystem together and have some intelligent way to make an informed decision out of this. And so that's how Qvinci got built and designed and patented. And so I know you're gonna hear some things and see some things today that I'll tell you what we used to get all the time and still do. I didn't know you could do that. Well, we're going to show you some I didn't know you could do that kind of things today. Brad?
Thank you, Charles. I appreciate that. Let's get into it. I'm going to briefly go over the learning objectives. And just to let everybody know, the copy of the deck and the recording will go to everyone. So you don't have to worry about screenshots and taking notes. We're going to make sure you get everyone so you can share it with your teams. Our learning objectives, or the blueprint today: define what real consolidation is, spot the myths before they damage your franchise, know who and what to avoid, leverage patented innovation, eliminate headaches, promote adoption and simple integration, and scale with confidence, as Caleb just said in a previous comment. So these are our learning objectives. This is what we're trying to show you today. So let's move into that. Let's move into the first part of this discussion. And the first part of this discussion is, well, why is this so critically important? Okay. And we're going to talk about a few things. I'm going to bring Caleb and Charles in. We're going to talk about the 3 pillars of a franchise financial performance solution. We're going to talk about some operational problems, some traditional financial problems, and we're going to explain to you our push-pull dynamic that every franchise should strive for. So let's get into it. I'm not going to read all this together. You're going to get a copy of this. We did a survey about a year and a half ago of, I think it was 750 brands. And we came up with 3 things that are important to a franchise. That's number 1, the data, franchise financial insights and data consolidation. 2, franchise owner performance coaching. And 3, brand compliance and expansion. Simply the data, coach for performance, keep your units in compliance, and sell more units. It's very simple. And Caleb, I'd like to bring you in and talk about your take on the 3 pillars and how they relate to your business.
Yeah, I mean, these are crucial for us. I'm going to start with the coaching. This is integral with our franchise coaches. They are constantly pulling this up, sending out reports, meeting with our franchisees, and going through many of the things that we'll talk about today. But this is really the biggest impact that we've been able to create, because it's all about supporting our franchisees. Obviously, being able to collect the data has been very helpful for us at the franchisor level to make decisions about investments that we make. And then as we create our item 19, we've been able to really be able to improve the insight into our item 19 and provide more details that help us sell new units rather than just keeping things high level at the AUV on the AUV side of things.
Well, thank you, Caleb. I appreciate that. This is kind of sets the stage for what we're doing. And let's go to the second thing is, one of the things Qvinci does is, we talk about the operational problem, which this slide just illustrates that you have a lot of stakeholders, you have a lot of different forms of QuickBooks and a lot of franchises, and how Qvinci brings all this together in one simple a solution for you to use. And so, Caleb, I'd ask you to talk about how you've handled this operational problem maybe before Qvinci and how easy it is to do it now.
Yeah, the operational problem before Qvinci is a really tough one to solve, as many people on this call probably know. You're making phone calls and sending out emails and reminders, trying to get people to submit their financials and trying to make heads and tails out of the consistency of the data that comes across. It's a little bit of a nightmare. So, this before was just took a full-time person's job doing that, or or just wasn't getting done. Those are the 2 things that were happening before. And then I'm sure many of you on this call are either looking to sell to private equity or maybe already are owned by private equity, but this has just been a crucial piece with the partners that we have on the private equity side, helping them understand the health of the underlying business units that we have that gives them the confidence to either come in and buy our business or maybe one day sell our business.
Well, thank you, Caleb. It's so important. Okay. So next we're going to talk about additional, we call it the traditional financial problem, but essentially it's most franchise owners aren't finance guys. They don't manage to a P&L. They don't understand traditional financials, but what they do understand is green is good or red, we got to talk. And this kind of takes the complexity out of traditional financials and makes it easy for anyone to understand. And so, that's the whole point of this one. And Caleb, I'd like you to ask you to talk about how important it is to collaborate with franchise owners in a manner they can understand.
Absolutely. One of our key values at Stellar is that the peer-to-peer is so strong. Being able to work with your, with your people that are running the same business model and are, working in your backyard or somewhere across the country, just understand what it looks like for them. And what Qvinci's really done here is it's been able to take static numbers that sit on the page and don't maybe necessarily mean anything, and it's been able to provide that benchmarking capability so that you can understand, why is something green or why is something red? Are you performing, at the top 25% of your network or above average, or on the flip side, below those network or below those metrics where you may otherwise not know just looking at a standalone P&L.
Thank you. And Charles, could you weigh in here and talk about how you use that green and red paradigm in the business intelligence at Qvinci, and how important that is?
Well, what we do is traditional financials are underlying data. In the underlying data, there's a lot of trending, but it's impossible to see the trending across 900 cells on a screen, for example. So what we do, as an example, one of the things we do in our 200 some odd reports is pull the data out, trend it, and if it's trending the wrong direction, you're going to get a red indicator. If it's going the right direction, you're going to get a green indicator. Or if you compare a unit's beverage cost to the average of the ecosystem and it's worse than the average, it might be red. So it's interpreting the data, the massive amount of data, taking the data and then put it in an interpretive relative framework.
Yeah, well, that's so important, Charles. And all three of these last things we talked about, the three pillars, the operational problem and the finance problem, they all point to one thing. That's this push-pull paradigm. And really, what the push-pull paradigm means is you want a business tool like the advisory portal or the KPI scorecard, okay? And you want to push the franchisee to talk to the franchisor, and you want to pull the franchisee into conversation with the franchisor, because they both perform a very similar paradigm. It's easy to interpret, and it's sort of, at the end of the day, you're working together. If both parties are working to speak to each other and collaborate, then we're going to win. So Caleb, if you'll add a few words here about how important it is to collaborate with your franchisees, and how important it is to have easy metrics that they can understand.
Yeah, like I said on the last slide, it's one of our biggest values. We have peer groups set up across our network so that people are able to put themselves in a position to collaborate and benchmark themselves against each other. But specifically speaking about the portal that you can log into, the portal just makes it really easy, especially with the color coding, to be able to just view the page and your eyes are drawn to the places that you want to go. And it really simplifies everything.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Charles and Caleb, for giving us a great discussion on the why and setting the stage for the next a topic of conversation, which is going to be let's get to polling question number 1 first, Sydney, if you don't mind. What does franchise location data consolidation mean to you? Does it simply mean collecting data in one place, or consolidating but not mapped or standardized, fully consolidated and standardized data? Not sure, want to learn more. We'll give a few people to answer that question, and then we'll close the poll. Okay, all right, that should be good enough. Let's go ahead and close it up, Sydney. Well, we have a lot of people that have fully consolidated with standard mapping and reporting. Wow, that's great to hear, because that was not true several years ago. All right, let's get into the critical parts of a great franchise performance management solution. And we're going to talk about 3 things. We're going to talk about near real-time homogeneous location data, role-based actionable insights, and ease of implementation and use. So let's talk about let's go to the next slide, which is going to be the near real-time homogeneous franchise data. Okay, and I'm not going to read these things for you. You're going to get a copy of the deck, but we talk about why this matters and what are the key capabilities. And Charles, I'd like to go to you first on this slide. And explain to our audience why it's mandatory that brands have access to timely and reliable franchise location data that is collected, consolidated, and mapped to a brand defined standard. And why is it mandatory that it's automated?
Well, this only happens every time we talk to a franchise. Every one of those QuickBooks files you saw earlier, the chart of accounts is different. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't stop it. Some people can't spell. They spell lease with 3 E's, right? Or they have an asterisk or any number of things. So the chart of accounts will be disparate. And if you have 100 locations and only 5% of the chart of accounts is different across those, your P&L will be 1,000 lines long. And there's nothing you're going to do. But you can't do anything with that. Not only that, you got volunteer. Every franchise we talk to, they say, well, how people are volunteering the day sending it in. What's their participation rate? And it's usually in the 30% range, somewhere around there. So no data, bad data means no decisions, no informed decisions. It's just the way it is. So solutions that automatically connect to a remote accounting file and extract the data every day and bring it in. And then that mapping thing, that's what we own our patents on, is putting that into the desired standard chart of accounts that you want. Maybe you want to call it rent, and you don't care what everybody calls it in the field, but you want it called rent in your P&L, and you want to put them up side by side. If you're going to do comparisons or consolidation, you have to have a standard chart of accounts. So the disparate data's got to come in from the field, automatically extracted overnight, come in, get put into that standard, and now you can run not only very good financial reports, but now you can do business intelligence and all the things we're going to show you. So automated extraction, mapping into a standard chart of accounts so that you can make an informed decision and collaborate. And that's, if you don't automate it, this is not going to happen.
Thank you, Charles. And Caleb, I'd like to bring you in here and talk about the practical application of having access to this in your brand or brands, and how this has been a game changer for Stellar Service Brands.
Yeah, we're using this in so many ways, but some of the things that may speak to people on this call is our marketing team as they are testing out marketing initiatives or specific just projects that they're working on, that we have test franchisees that are getting involved. We're able to go through and track their marketing spend in dollars without needing to ask them to provide what they spent. We can see it in their P&L, and then we can track that in correlation with how their sales are changing over a specific time to see what the effectiveness was. We're looking at this to make sure that from a profitability standpoint, that our cohorts by class year are continuing to improve their profitability year by year. And if not, we're creating initiatives at the franchisor level that we are using to help them improve their profitability. And then again, these peer groups that we've set up within our networks are really just a key place for us to be able to identify how peer groups are outperforming one another or even within their own peer group.
Well, thank you, Caleb. I appreciate that. Okay, so we're gonna go over number 2, which is really all about role-based actionable insights, the metrics that matter. Okay, and Charles, why don't you briefly tell us about, when you invented Qvinci, what was the problem you're trying to solve, and how does role-based insights, why are role-based insights so critical for a franchise?
Well, I saw the same thing over and over again. You got a multi-entity enterprise, and they had no standardized way of looking like Caleb was just talking about, a standardized way of looking, comparing to peers, and then make an informed decision on the winners and the people that need help. And inside that context, you're going to have CFOs that have a more of a global financial kind of viewpoint. They want to see how the ecosystem's doing, average, that kind of thing. But then you've got coaches, a little more granular. So you're going to need tools or reports that the coach can use to coach an individual franchisee, so to speak. So there's, you have different persona types. And then let's not forget, with a Qvinci, franchisees can have logins if you so desire, and they can compare themselves to peers. And nothing says what they really care about is how their business is doing, and not in a vacuum. What is everybody doing that I'm not doing that I could do better? They're looking for opportunities, and this reveals that kind of thing. So different user types have different needs when it comes to reporting, but standardizations and data collection is at the center of all of that. Because if you don't automatically collect it and standardize it, you can't give those kinds of unique reports to every one of those personas.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. And Caleb, I'd like you to weigh in here and maybe talk about, add on to what Charles saying about why these role-based insights and why is it so important to have these things that benefit both the franchisor and the franchisee?
Absolutely. Everything Charles said is great. And I would just say that at the franchisee level, it's really tough for them we can't share legally everybody's granular data. So this tool allows us to create some anonymity and put them into some benchmarking buckets and KPIs that still allow a franchisee on their own to be able to compare themselves to where certain quartiles of the network might be performing, or just the system as a whole. But outside of that, our coaches being able to have this at their fingertips while they're traveling, and just being able to pull up a call or see how their book of business, that, if they oversee 20 units or 40 units and they can pull up a report that's just got their units in it, they're able to really filter and splice up the reporting so that it's meaningful to them. And then, of course, at our level, we're obviously bringing things all the way up to the ecosystem level and making decisions for the business based on the results of our franchisees.
Thank you, Caleb. It's so vitally important. And let's look at this last section in this first last subsection of this first section, implementation and ease of use. Okay, and why this is so important. You have to have something that your franchisees can implement very easily and understand it. And Charles, in the interest of time, I'm going to go straight to Caleb on this one and talk about how easy it was for you and Stellar Service Brands to implement Qvinci.
Yeah, it's really easy, especially for those units that are on QuickBooks Online, which I would imagine that many of your franchisees are on QuickBooks Online. It's if you, as a franchisor, already have access to their QuickBooks file, and if you can just log in and connect it yourself, it's really simple to set up the software to connect to QuickBooks and click a few buttons, and all of the data starts to flow in. Or you can have the franchisees log in themselves and they become the syncer, but it really is something that can just happen in seconds. The data refreshes every single night when we log in every morning. It's fresh with what happened in their set of QuickBooks the day before. And then we can even refresh midday at the entity level if we need to get some type of update. And we know that a franchisee did something after, the global sync, we can go in and refresh their file that morning.
Great, thank you, Caleb. I appreciate that. And with that, let's go on to polling question number 2, Sydney. Excuse me. What tools or processes do you currently use to consolidate franchise location data? Check all that apply. Spreadsheets, manual uploads, ERP accounting systems, BI visual tools, Profit Keeper, Fathom, LiveFlow, other third-party app, custom built, Qvinci, other, not sure, want to learn more. So go ahead and answer that one. He's always interested. We had 85% of the people said they do consolidation fully. So it'd be interesting to answer on this one. And Sydney, I think we could wrap it up. Okay, 41% spreadsheets, about 14% others. So that's interesting. 41% using manual uploads. So let's see if we can convince them that automation is the key. So let's go and move on to the Qvinci automation. Okay, which is going to be the next section of our webinar, and we're going to talk about our patented technology, our integration, our rapid onboarding, and how we solve the pain points. Okay, so let's look at the first one. And Charles, I'm going to bring you in here first and talk about this patented technology and how this is so far in advance of our competitors in the marketplace.
Well, we did this in 2009, and Intuit came calling and said, hey, we got some problems. We have multi-entities and we've tried to solve the reporting piece. We can't do it. We see that you're doing it. Let's talk. So we did. But at the end of the day, it is not an easy problem to solve because, again, who knows what they're running in the field? QuickBooks Online, desktop, different versions, different charts of accounts. It's what I call data in the wild. You never know what's out there in that QuickBooks file. So you have to have a solution that, and so that's why I patented it, is because you have to have a solution that takes all that crazy stuff in the field and turns it into a standard. And one thing that we did was, we don't care if you're running zero. So you got you get some franchisees running QuickBooks Desktop, and some running QuickBooks Online, some running Zero, some are Excel. No problem. We just consider those all databases. We extract the data out, we pull it in, and the reporting is standardized and unified. So that way, sometimes, and we see this all the time. Sometimes we have a standard in our FTD. You have to use QuickBooks Online, but we have our biggest couple of guys and they're running QuickBooks Desktop and they don't want to change and we don't want to rock the boat. So leave them on QuickBooks Desktop. So, you don't want to worry about what they're using for an accounting system realistically if you don't have to. We suggest QuickBooks Online, but it's not required.
Okay, well, thank you. And Caleb, let's talk a little bit about how you and Stellar Service Brands have benefited from that Qvinci technology. Maybe talk a little about the rapid onboarding training and how has Qvinci helped you solve some of the pains of manual processes?
Yeah, I mean, we start our franchisees out with a QuickBooks file, and we connect it to Qvinci right out of the gate, and it's just a part of our training process. Franchisees that start, after today, they know that Qvinci is the platform that we use, and it makes it easy for them to really understand that we are finance focused and numbers focused right out of the gates, and that we're going to be using this tool and coming back to it on a regular basis, so that it's a priority from day one for them. And I don't remember what your second question was, Brad, but I think that answered it.
Yeah, I think you did answer it. One of the interesting things is we have 41% are doing it manually,
Mm-hmm.
80% are doing it. So the point is this automation tool can help those 41% save money and time and accuracy.
Time is key. Time is key. We've got um, our our coaches know that the books are closed by the 12th of the month. And when they come in at the 12th of the month, they start pulling numbers and they don't have to chase anybody down. They're able to impact everyone and in the same time fashion.
Well, I appreciate that, Caleb. All right. The why doesn't the competition measure up? I'm going to briefly go over this. You're going to get a copy of the deck. But I can summarize this as lack of consolidation, true consolidation, lack of automation, limited or canned reporting. Qvinci has 280. I have 180 here, but it's really 280 jumpstart templates plus unlimited customization. Meaningful BI, KPIs, and customized reporting. Charles said it earlier. Financials are just the data. You got to have meaningful BI that people can use, interpret, and act on. And that's one of the things Qvinci does. And the heavy reliance on Excel. And we saw that in I think there's a second poll question. How many people were using Excel? So Excel is manual processing, pure and simple. So let's go to we're going to move to the real meat of this session, which is the live demo. Okay, and we're gonna go over 6 or 7. I think it's 6 here, but I think we added one the other day, Caleb. We're gonna go over 6 or 7 things. And Charles, why don't you grab the screen and bring up the franchise wellness dashboard?
It just had me send a request, so I can do that. So you don't have to enable me.
Mm-hmm.
Got it now.
Okay. Thanks, Sydney.
Okay. You see in the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is the portal. When you have an account at Qvinci, you'll log in. Franchisees will see these are the units. These are groups, right? So in a case, this might be a brand, or concept. But these are all the units. And what we do is we give you since we're pulling all that data in from all those locations, remember, different QuickBooks files as an example, bring them all in, standardize them, and color code things. This is the entry point. And so really all you want to do is If I'm a franchisee, I can log in. I would only see the units that I belong to. If I'm a coach, the units that I'm monitoring. If I'm at the mothership, maybe I see them all. And we're going to color code things for you. We're going to tell you the last day that it's synced. You can see that these QuickBooks files synced this morning. This one synced probably before midnight. We start about 8 o'clock at night, start syncing. So you can see that the data of all these QuickBooks files has now been updated in the last several hours. Okay. So, I mean, there's a bunch of other fields here where you can drill down to underlying data, but let's just talk about this over here. These are hot. These are all fields that are, all these cells are hot. You'll pick the periods that you want, month over month, 3 months over 3 months, fiscal year over fiscal year. Okay. So this is showing the trending. Remember I said relative trending is important. So this month versus the prior month, and let's come down to this unit here. We can see that red's bad. It's just not a good thing. It's going the wrong direction. So 15% gross margin is off 50% on this location here. So if I click the cell, up comes a card and it tells me what it is and it tells me how much. Well, I like that. And I can see that August over September over August, the last month versus the prior month. So what is the next question? See, we're going to drill down to underlying data. So I can click this button here and it says, okay, great. Go get the P&L for that location, month over month or period over period. And let's also get the same period last year. And by the way, we don't care what the remote chart of accounts is for this report. Give it to me for that location in my standard. I don't care what they call it in the field. I care that it's called, rent expense. That's what I want to call it. I don't care that it's 567 Old Colony Line Road, right? In their native chart of accounts. Put in the standard, and I'm going to interrogate. Now we said that gross profit was off dramatically, and so we're gonna look at the income. We're looking at the P&L, but it's a synopsis. I'm not looking at the last 12 months. I'm looking at the most recent periods. And sure, look at here, you got food costs, normally $8,000, $12,000, $25,000, $27,000. Yes, there's an OMG moment. I'm seeing something. Well, these cells are all hot. I wonder what makes that up. And so if I double click it, I'm going to drill down. It's going to show you the transactions in that remote file. Sometimes you'll find a problem. Sometimes you'll find a big winner. I wonder if that's real. So you go from general to specific. You go from red down to data points, down to underlying data points, and aha, I see this. Guess what? I can call up Saint Augustine and say, look, we should probably talk. Is this real? Can this be real? And the franchisee or the location, can do the same kind of thing. Go from general to specific. So you care about. We don't want to start with this specific kind of data. Imagine that you had this accounts for every last one of your units. How would you make any sense of it? Well, you wouldn't. So this gives you a relative view. The portal is going to give you a relative view of all your units. You just get find red, fix red. Find 120% off. Oh my God, I probably should drill down and take a look here. So if it's green, you'll leave it alone. If it's black, you'll leave it alone. Black's in range, green's good, green's improving, red's going the wrong direction. So that's the portal. Everybody gets it. And you'll use it as your entry point. Brad?
Yeah, well, thank you. And Caleb, let's come in and talk briefly about how a franchise like Settle Brand could use this tool. How have you used it?
Yeah, I mean, Charles really hit the spot on it. This is what I was referencing earlier, where all of the data comes down into one spot and makes it really easy to just filter through. I'll highlight a few things that, Charles, he didn't hit this part, but it might be a way that we use it. Each of these columns is filterable. So, for Restoration 1, we have over 200 units, and it's tough to sometimes see everything on one page. So maybe I'm only wanting to look at the people who are below zero. I can come into here and I can filter on the COGS category or gross profit margin, and I can put everybody who is less than or equal to zero for the change. And that way, now I'm only looking at anyone that is maybe going down in a relative period over period, and I can see who I should be focused on. Or maybe I want to make some phone calls this month and congratulate people for some of their strong performance. And I can come in here and sort a column based on who had the best profitability this month or the best gross margins this month. And so I come into this report, sort it, and now I've got 5 phone calls that I can make where I build some goodwill with franchisees that, in my role, sometimes my calls aren't great. And now I'm calling and building goodwill. So those are some of the ways that we use this page.
Perfect, Caleb. Thank you. And Charles, let's go ahead and move to the KPI scorecard and talk about This is one of our most used tools. So talk about why this matters and how would a franchise use it?
Okay. So this is one of the examples of the 280 reports we have that are pre-built for you, and they'll automatically adjust. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. We're agnostic to that. And I'm going to point two things out to you. Number one, everything in Qvinci, you can run all reports and they will run on 1 to N units. If you like this report and the way it works, you can select 57 locations, and this would be a consolidated KPI scorecard system-wide for 500. So what this thing does is I'm reporting on 1 unit now, but I'm relative to the rest of the ecosystem. So it's going to automatically pull the top 5 income accounts, costs, and expenses for the period in question and do some analysis down here. And in this particular permutation, because I'm looking at the numbers, it's going to show Morristown Cafes last 12 months average. And it automatically wraps the low and high range, which you can change. We call this the ideal range. You'll set the range, but we have an automatic 2% low high. Okay. And so we're pulling for the reporting month. And if the reporting month is better, performing than the high range or the low range, you're going to get green. If it's worse, it's going to be red. If it's in range, it's going to be black. 4,200 is between these two ranges. So kind of been doing what I've been doing the last 12 months. So it's color coded red, find red. So, I don't mind this going up as long as this is going up commensurately, because COGS follows sales, right? But I do care if this goes up by a lot more than what's happening up here, right? So I do care about that. In this case, we also pulled the prior month, and we're going to give you a trend. If the reporting month is better than the prior month, and we have month and quarters and years, you're going to get a green check. If it's not as good, you're going to get a red X. This is trending. Wine sales is trending unfavorably month over month. Okay. And we can compare it to the system average. The system average for catering and contracts is 41,244. This unit did 34,905. The top 20% is 89,000. Franchisee can log in and run this for themselves and compare themselves to peer, and they'll see this. Now, if you want to normalize it, you can come over here and say, look, don't show me the counts, but show me percent of income. It's a little bit different view. You get a little bit different red, little different color coding because it's normalization with ratios. You'll notice that these things have all changed here. So, again, catering contracts, 33.1% of income. The system average is 43.1%. I wonder what's happening here. Wine sales are higher than the average. So catering is where the money's at, right? My best performers are in catering. So, this is an example of something that we can do. And by the way, we're an authoring system. Everything that you can do in Excel, you can do in Qvinci and create a custom template that you'll just log in and select the entities and click preview and it'll run. And they'll have tabs like this, like the top 10 expenses. For this, here's the top 10 expenses for Morristown Cafe. Same thing, find red. Prior month is this, going the wrong direction. Compared to the last 12 months, it's actually good, but it is trending worse than the prior month. And green is good, but it's actually worse than the prior month. So we'll have these various views. Qvinci gives you these, takes all the piles of numbers from all the locations and gives it to you relatively, and gives it to you period over period, and gives it to you configured in a color coded way, so you can focus on the things that are important that might need your attention. Brad?
Thank you. And Caleb, let's talk about, I know you use this to the KPI scorecard. Tell us how you use it and how it's helped you manage your franchise locations.
We love this KPI scorecard. It's huge for us. And I believe Charles mentioned this at the beginning of the call, but most of your franchisees are not finance people. In fact, I would almost bet that none of them are. And when you hop into a report like this is something that everyone can really start to understand, and their eyes are drawn to certain places. And typically what we find is that whenever they hop into this report, they go to the red stuff first because, red is bad. And it starts creating a sense of curiosity. Why is it bad? And they start now understanding, or they start diving into these questions, and they're able to understand where should they be focused in their business. And as they drill into the numbers, they start to understand the trends and why is it red. And it just we found that in our coaching that this helps our franchisees figure out which questions to ask rather than just staring at a blank report and not knowing what the numbers mean. It drives the conversation.
Well, thank you, Caleb. I appreciate that. And this tool it goes. I was the one who said it goes back to the green is good, red we got to talk, and a very simple KPI scorecard. Charles, let's move on to the ranking and benchmarking, and talk a little bit about that. How that can benefit both the franchisor and the franchisee.
Okay, so this will be primarily a franchisor facing tool, but they will use this to coach the franchisees. So one of those relative kind of things again. So again, the names of the locations will be over here. You just simply select all locations you want to benchmark, and it's going to put them up side by side. It's going to give you, you'll pick the period that you want, year, month, fiscal year. I'm going to use fiscal year. These are the averages, the top 10% across all these categories. And by the way, you can pick up to 3 custom categories. In this case, the local marketing, like Caleb was talking about earlier, is tracking the local marketing spend. 1.5%, 1.1, and 0.3%. The top 10%, top 20%, and the franchise average. Now the units are down here. All these columns. This is a table, so you can sort things smallest to largest, et cetera, and so forth, and see what's happening here. And I care about, I care when COGS are out of whack. If the average is 38.2%, I do in fact care about everybody that is worse than the average, right? So here they are. And I actually built this report, designed this report, and built this for a franchise who did not have a good handle on where the problems were across their restaurants. And come to find out, there's a big COGS problem is really what there was. So you'll have all the units, you'll have them stacked, ranked on top of each other. You'll sort the, if you want to look at net income sorted in ascending, descending order, then yeah, go ahead, sort the smallest to the largest, and here are all the OMGs, right? So as a coach, I'm going to take this, if I'm responsible for location 7, okay, and they've lost $68,000, I've got their metrics right here relative to everybody else, and I know their relative position within the ecosystem. Number 18 out of 36 as an example. So this tells me which entities have which problems where realistically, and I can look at the spend over here, and I if they're not doing the marketing thing like they should, they're probably gonna hit their sales. So I get a very good view, and then I can cut and paste and send. I can cut this and this for location. The guy owns number 735 and number 1. I can cut those things out and send them to him. Now I've got something to talk about.
Okay. Thank you, Charles. I appreciate that. Kayla, let's bring you in here and talk a little bit about how Stellar Service Brands have used benchmarking to help coach your franchise owners for performance.
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of you on this call that have franchisees that don't have an AUV problem and have a profitability problem. And a lot of times when we're only looking at the sales data, you think that a franchisee is doing just great because they've got strong sales. And then in 3 months that you get a phone call and they're talking to you about their cash flow problems. So this report allows you to really, it's just another way to cut up the data and see it in a way that can help you identify where some of those people that you don't think that you might want to be worried about, because again, their sales are strong. But as you look across the line, you see that they're ranked 7th in sales and 31st in profitability. And that is someone that you really want to get a hold of, because if they stay not profitable for long enough, you lose one of your top performing units in your business.
Yeah, thank you, Caleb. That's a great point. Great point. And Charles, why don't we bring up the break-even analysis and give us a brief intro, and then we'll ask Caleb about it.
Okay. This basically is a what-if forecasting tool. We're going to pull in we're going to do a break-even based on your actuals. It was automatically set up. And we automatically populate the actuals over here. And now you can play what if. So I see what my break-even point is. I'd like to improve that. I can see the material cost is 15%. I think I can do it for 13. And you'll just come over here, take the franchise average. If the average for material H cost is 9.6%, we're going to suggest you put 9.6 in there, because that's what you really ought to be doing. You've got the relative stuff we just looked at. Let's put in what we should be doing, because we're not as good as that. You put that in, it's going to show you what your new break-even point is going to be, and you can manage to this. So you're managing to a likely reality. Brad?
Thank you, Charles. Caleb, I think we when we talked earlier, you guys were not using this one, but you tell us how you think it could be used by your group and others.
Yeah, the last week was the first time that I had seen this report, and I've used things like this in the past. And the thing that I really like about applications for this tool is everyone can get involved with putting in their numbers and trying to determine where they want to be, but it's an accountability tool really, because you can sit down with your franchisees and show them that, hey, this is where you're at today, but what if you could scrape off 1% here or $5,000 here? What does that do? And then you've got the accountability to come back to them, in 3 months or 6 months and see, hey, have you made progress towards this goal? And if so, now you've established what your new break-even point is, or maybe you're trying to hit a certain profitability target. You are able to really quickly and dynamically update the numbers and see what it's going to take to get there.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Caleb. And Charles, let's move to the next report, which is the entities at risk versus high performers. And give us a brief introduction of that, and then we'll ask Caleb to weigh in as well.
Okay, we got another ZOR facing report. These are the categories that we have chosen, and we're automatically going to roll this up for you across all your entities. You can come in here and pick different accounts and put different ideal ranges. You'll define the ranges that you want. And what this does is it analyzes all your entities and how they're doing compared to the risk rate, your ideal range, and the average of the ecosystem. Now, the reason there's all these and these will be the names of the units here. The reason they're yellow is I've got it selected, show me all the entities that fail 3 of these categories against my ideal range. If I said, show me everybody who fails 5, there's going to be fewer. These are all the entities. And so entity 156 is 4th on the list, and here, and here, and here, and here. So 152, he's got some serious issues in a bunch of categories. And so I might put marketing spend. I may not care about total other income, but I might put marketing spend here and have a different range here. And so this will allow you to have a landscape view, analyze landscape view across all your entities against the ideal ranges of your choosing and against the average. And you can look at the ones that are at risk, and you can also look at the ones that are your optimum best performers. Fred?
Yeah, thank you very much. Caleb, I'd like you to talk about how Stellar Service Brands and others can use this tool to help find out about failing locations before it's too late.
Yeah, again, this is just a prioritization tool. This is going to help you be able to understand who is going to be the people for you to really identify and get ahead of before something gets really, really bad. It can be spliced up a bunch of different ways. And as Charles was mentioning, you can pick your own accounts. And so if you know that for your business, a huge leading indicator is that your labor costs need to be a certain, percent of sales, then that's one that you're going to put in here. You're going to go in and make it show you what your total labor costs are. And that's going to be something that you're super focused on, as well as any other categories that you want to look at.
Well, thank you, Caleb. I appreciate that. And, everyone's going to get a copy of this deck, so you'll have it there. And we can dive deep into it. We only have time to go over it generally. So, Charles, I'd like you to bring up the performance dashboards and do a brief intro on that as well.
Okay, so again, we're looking at everything in Excel. It looks exactly the same way in Qvinci. Just Excel presents nicely, and of course, you can share these things. So this is an example of one of our dashboards. Eye candy, show me color, show me pretty stuff. Again, we have chosen these default accounts for you. They are changeable. So if you don't care about long-term liabilities, I select the entity. By the way, if I selected 20 entities, it'd be consolidated dashboard. So I don't want that, but I do care about wine sales, and I don't care about current assets, but I do care about, wine cost. I care about that. So we're going to give you the numbers. We're going to show you the period. You'll select the periods that you want, going back to 24, 25, whatever you want to do. This is your 12-month trend line for all these accounts. And if it's red, it's trending the wrong direction, June, month over versus prior month. And you can do the 3 months versus 3 months, fiscal year versus fiscal year, okay? And if it's red, listen, we need to do something about it, right? So if it's trending the right direction, that's fantastic. The COGS is good, gross profit's not, total expenses, okay. And you'll use this as a tool. Again, your franchisees can run it as well for themselves across their 1 to N entities, but it gives a great snapshot of the big ticket items that you care about, but it also shows the trending lines. So you care about this one, right? Versus the prior month, it's good, but over the year, we may have some work to do. Brad?
Thank you very much. And Caleb, why don't you weigh in here and talk about how Stellar Service Brands have used these performance dashboards to benefit both the franchisor and the franchisee?
Yeah, this is another one of our favorite reports that we're running on a monthly basis with our franchisees. The coaches are really intimate with the knowledge of each of the underlying entities that they oversee as a coach. And so they come in here and they select the categories that are going to be most impactful for that franchisee to look at. This one's just very easy to digest and really makes it easy to highlight the things that are going well, but more specifically, the things where improvement or your focus should be placed upon. And the trending, the graph lines are really helpful as well, and just illustrating the overall picture of what's happening with the franchisee's business.
Thank you very much, Caleb. And Charles, Caleb, I think, we talked about basic reports, custom grouping, properties, and report categorization. And give a brief explanation of how your franchisees use basic reports and custom groupings. And what are the benefits?
Yeah. Again, many of you on this call are probably using QuickBooks, but you get into QuickBooks and it's paralysis of analysis when you get into that report page and you see the hundreds of reports that they have. We love having our franchisees come and look at their data in Qvinci because the basic reports page really splices it down into the few key reports that are really going to be crucial in managing your business, reviewing your P&L, looking at your balance sheet, understanding what a cash flow statement looks like, reviewing your aging AR. How many people have businesses out there that don't collect their cash at the point of sale? That is such a key report to be looking at that may get missed if you aren't getting into QuickBooks and understanding where you should be going. So the basic report page is just something that we really love, simplifying where your focus should be, reviewing on a monthly basis. Specifically, Brad, excuse me, you talked about the filtering. The filtering is another thing that's just crucial for us. You can set up your own custom filtering. Right now, these are some of the standard featured filters that come with Qvinci, but we've gone in and we have added so many different custom fields. Where in the country are the franchisees? Are they in the Midwest? Are they in the South? Or are they in the West? And that allows us to run each report that's within Qvinci with just the click of a button. I've mentioned our peer groups. We can group people into our peer groups and run a report that just shows all of the franchisees that are in a particular peer group. We can run things by an FC. So the filtering really allows you to jump around and see how you might benchmark or dissect your large franchise group into smaller groups and understand what's happening within each of those units.
Thank you very much. And Charles, if you would mind briefly go over the new report categorization tool to help Caleb and others, navigate the library a little bit quicker.
Okay. Let me okay, so if I go into this is the gallery, and this is where all those reports that you saw that I showed you are all sitting in this gallery. They're ready to rock and roll. And what we allow you to do, we have a aid here. I mean, there's 280 of them. So let me go in and find some benchmarking tools that are entities at risk, or a ranking report. So we've got categories over here. You want traditional financials. Now, the difference between this and the basic reports is these are advanced. They'll be color coded. They may have other analytics in them. The advanced reports in the gallery have all they're a lot more intelligence to them. And there's business intelligence reports over here as well. So forecasting, predictive analysis. So this is where you select the report type, kind, periods. You want it with a scope. You want to see it in the native chart of accounts? Pick no scope. You're going to be looking at it as it is in those QuickBooks files. And do you want advanced business intelligence? We have these things called report levels, inquire, interact, and interrogate, which brings more data, which puts some analysis inside those reports with you. So in the gallery, we have a chooser that helps you find the reports that you're looking for that you want to run by type and kind. It's very, very quick, easy way to navigate 280 reports.
Well, thank you, Charles. And why don't we go ahead and give me back the screen? And I will share my screen here. We want number 2, share. And Sydney, why don't you put up polling question number 3? Polling question number 3. Which of the myths have you encountered from vendors? Any BI tool will consolidate your data. Accounting solutions will solve your consolidation. Spreadsheets are fine if you're small. Data collection equals consolidation. I'm not sure. I'd like to learn more. And remember, a lot of people use spreadsheets. So let's go ahead and answer that one. And Sydney, I think you could wrap that up. Well, a 57% spreadsheets are fine and interesting. 19% I'm not sure I want to learn more. So I think we have an audience that we need to convince. So let's go to the last 2 parts, and we're at about 55 minutes. We may go slightly over 60 minutes, but we have a lot of stuff we went over today and some great information for you guys. So we're going to move through this next section a little bit quicker. And it's really the final 2 must-haves for a great franchise system, which is onboarding, training, support, and scaling and customization. So for training and support, we've talked about that. And Caleb, I'm gonna go directly to you and talk about your experience in training support. I think you gave a big compliment to Robin, your AM at Qvinci, and maybe briefly talk about how she helped you.
Yeah, I'll continue to compliment Robin. Robin is the account manager that we deal with on a daily basis. And Robin just makes it really easy if our franchisees are having an issue connecting to Qvinci for whatever reason. It is simple, but still you do have people that struggle to figure out how to get it all the way across the finish line or anything that we need, really. We get really quick responses from Robin. She'll schedule meetings directly with franchisees. She follows up on it. And then when she's on that call, she makes sure that they have all of their questions answered. She treats our franchisees as if they were her own personal customer. And we've had great feedback from our franchisees and our internal team that works with her.
Well, great. I'm glad to hear that, Caleb. And the second part of this final thing is scalability and customization. And you know what? We've talked about this a number of times throughout this webinar, so we're not going to go into it too much, and because it really matters. Technology will help you scale. If you remember, 41% of the people are using spreadsheets, and we all know spreadsheets are not scalable. Automation is. So we appreciate that, and I'm not going to go into that anymore because Caleb, you've already spoken to the scalability earlier on, and I want to go over just a couple of other top brands that use Qvinci. We have 350 brands, 35,000 locations across our franchise vertical. So we do this for a lot of people. And we've been doing it since 2008. So let's go with polling question number 4. What's your biggest frustration with current franchise location data, with your current franchise location data consolidation process? Accuracy, lack of standardization, too much manual work, limited visibility, franchisee adoption or resistance? I'm not sure. I want to learn more. I think we should be able to go and wrap that up here. Well, 23% of you are worried about accuracy. Well, an automation tool like Qvinci solves that. 27% lack of standardization. It's across the board. And Qvinci helps you solve those. So you can go ahead and close that up. All right. Now we're at sort of the end of the webinar. We don't have a lot. We're at 58 minutes now, so we got about 2 minutes to wrap this up, and I'll do so. All right. What did we learn today? Well, we learned about the clarity of what real consolidation means. We learned the ability to identify what false claims are early, what to avoid, manual processes, appreciation of a proven invention, Qvinci, a blueprint to eliminate the headaches, automation, and how to drive adoption by your franchise owners, and simplicity. And then confidence to scale with precision. Okay, next steps. You're going to get a copy of this deck. You're going to have a private demonstration. You can click a button here. It opens up an Acuity calendar, and you can schedule some time. You can attend another live product-focused webinar or visit our learning center. We have a special discount for everyone. It's basically 95% off for your first 2 months to get you up and running. And all we ask is you reach out in the next 30 days and talk to our salespeople. And we also have package pricing to purchase QuickBooks. You can purchase QuickBooks from us, and we handle the customer success, one throat to choke. Okay, and as you can see here, we are a single source provider of a franchise fintech solution, and we do all these things: payroll, accounting, data migration, and all the things that we talked about today from Qvinci. All right, polling question number 5, Sydney. What's your top priority for true franchise location data consolidation? Increase franchisee profitability, enforce brand compliance and standards, scalability to support growth, still refining your long-term strategy, here to explore? And I'm not sure. So everyone go ahead and answer that question, and we'll take a look and see. Sydney, you can go ahead and wrap that up. Wow. Increasing franchisor profitability. No surprises here. Ability to scale. Okay. So Qvinci can help you in every one of these things. Okay. Well, guys, we're about a minute over. So we got a bunch of questions in the question box. We're not going to be able to get to them today, but we have consultants, we have solution consultants ready to stand by and answer your questions. And we'll get back to all of you. Sorry we went a little bit over, but we had so much to go into today. And Caleb and Charles were making such great points. I didn't want to interrupt them. So thank you, Charles. Thank you, Caleb, for a great presentation. And Sydney, I'll turn it back over to you to wrap it up.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Thank you again to Brad, Caleb, and Charles for your time. And thank you to Qvinci for the sponsorship. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Like I mentioned, the recording and slide deck will be sent around later on. And yeah, I hope everyone has a great rest of your week and a wonderful upcoming weekend.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.